One of the longest-standing Bitcoin advocates is none other than Erik Voorhees. He is CEO of SHAPESHIFT. His company provides instant cryptocurrency conversion, trading one type for digital asset for another. He's been an original builder, though, and an entrepreneur in Bitcoin since all the way back in 2011. I started my conversation by asking him, well, how he sees the crypto landscape building at the moment.
I've been involved since Bitcoin was about $5, and it was the only coin, the only asset. The concept of blockchains was not that talked about, and we spent a lot of time daydreaming about a day when global corporations and governments would be paying heavy attention to this because it was getting so big, and it's happening. It's taking over the world in some ways, and it goes in fits and starts, but I think people are starting to really pay attention to it.
For good or bad, you're a man who I know can get quite passionate about the subject of regulation, and you've not always thought they do it in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I generally think that most regulation is superfluous at best, and a lot of it is quite harmful. Generally, especially in the realm of finance, I think money itself is really in need of being let loose and freed from government control. It is in a market-based economy, having the primary good, which is money, be centrally planned, I think is very problematic. And no one would tolerate a monopoly in the manufacturing of shoes or cars or cell phones, and yet they do tolerate it in the realm of money. And so people in crypto basically want to offer alternatives.
So let's first of all dig into the way you think the utopia therefore is for crypto. I mean, will central banks and governments just not play a role within what eventually will be money, but in a digital sense?
Yeah, I mean, crypto is not a panacea. It does not bring a utopia, but I think what it does do is finally bring competition into the realm of money, and it allows people to actually innovate in financial systems in a way that has never been able to be done before. So for that reason, it's really important, and even if someone doesn't buy into whether Bitcoin will take over fiat currencies like dollars, most people should at least be interested in the fact that competition is now happening. That's generally seen as a good thing.
And will Bitcoin remain the dominant player within this crypto asset, crypto currency space as it is at the moment, or will we have room for many?
Well, it's become an asset class. Bitcoin is definitely the biggest. Ethereum is the second biggest. I don't know which one we will be talking about most 5 or 10 years from now, but the important point is just that these things can compete now, and I think it's been really exciting to see all the innovation happening. There are a lot of projects in the space. A lot of them are garbage. A lot of them are well-intentioned but will fail, and then some of them are actually going to end up changing the world.
Now, this is why the regulators, perhaps to a certain extent, have wanted to cast an eye on this space, is because of the garbage, is because that people are losing their money, those that shouldn't be losing their money are falling for scams and cheats within the space. So do you think it needs regulation from a certain perspective, and how?
I don't think it does. Largely what regulators should focus on is preventing fraud and theft. You don't need all the thousands of pages of regulations to prevent fraud. If someone commits fraud, you should go arrest them and then prosecute them for fraud. Most of the regulations have nothing to do with fraud or theft. They have to do with controlling the behavior of consenting adults. And some of that is, I think, highly problematic. I think if you believe in individual liberty, if you believe in free markets, adults who are not cheating each other should be permitted to interact economically in whatever way the two of them see fit. And most regulations simply get in the way of that. And
you've talked about New York, for example, the licensing there. Do you feel it stifles innovation in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just my feeling at this point. New York issued the BIT license 4 years ago, and essentially crypto innovation in New York has completely died. Most of the crypto companies that were there left New York, and now the biggest thing that happens in crypto in New York is the conference called Consensus each year. Most of the crypto innovation is happening elsewhere, and that was largely due to that one piece of legislation. And then the guy who implemented it, Ben Losky, he left the New York Department of Financial Services and got a job helping to consult companies that are trying to navigate the regulations that he imposed. So there's a lot of cronyism going on, and I think a lot of people have been pretty fed up with it.
Let's talk about innovation. Let's talk about your innovation. Let's talk about SHAPESHIFT, because what does it want to become? At the moment, it's a medium of exchange of crypto assets, but you're building on top of that, fixing other problems to be solved within the ecosystem.
Yeah, technically, SHAPESHIFT is a market maker. People think of us as an exchange, but basically, you come to us if you have Bitcoin and you want to trade it for Ethereum or Litecoin for Dash, for example. And we built a way to do that much more safely and much more quickly than how it had been done before. We don't hold any customer funds, and this is really important. Most people are aware of the Mt. Gox fiasco and the exchanges that have been hacked. SHAPESHIFT is a system that actually protects consumers by building technology that allows them to do what they want to do without holding high amounts of risk. And
so they do that via initially putting Ether in. Is this how it's powered? If I'm not using money and I'm not actually needing to own the assets themselves, I'm somehow doing it virtually via you.
Yeah, you can think of it like a vending machine. Instead of putting in a coin, you put in a crypto asset. Instead of giving out a candy bar, you get another crypto asset.
Okay.
We hold an inventory of all these things, and so we sell them directly to the customers. What we don't do is hold an account with all the funds of all these people. So in that way, we're very different than a traditional exchange.
And I've got to ask you about SHAPESHIFT, because you've raised money. You've made money from significant players within the space, Lakestar, Pantera, Blockchain Capital. You raised 10 million in what was your Series A. Why did you decide to sell equity? Why did you go for money? Why didn't you do an ICO, as it's called, initial coin offering?
Yeah, I mean, largely we put that round together back in the fall of 2016, and we wanted to bring in some more institutional expertise. We wanted to have a formal board with people that knew what they were doing, that had built businesses, because that will help us build our own. ICOs are great for raising a lot of money quickly, but you don't get the expertise of the people that you're partnering with. So that was a large part of it, and also a large part of it was ICOs had not become nearly as popular when we were actually putting that together. And
when did you do one next?
Well, I mean, I won't say we haven't thought of it, but it's in the US at least, it's really problematic from a regulatory perspective, because the SEC has not been clear on which tokens are securities and which are not. And they have claimed that they are clear about it, but you go to any of the major law firms in the US and ask them to do a legal analysis of a token, whether it's a security or not, and they will not even be able to do the review. They refuse to even do the analysis. So the SEC has cast a huge pall over the whole industry, and no one really knows where they're going to draw that line. And it's something that has to get fixed.